What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We have episode 6 of the Linux Tech and Gaming Podcast with myself, Ubu, the Tech Guru. I'm coming straight at you. How is everybody doing today? I'm doing fantastic. And along with me, we have Osiris, otherwise known as Osiris Tech, PC Pimp. And then we have the Atomic Ass. He is the... Well, I got audio playing in the background here all of a sudden. I don't know why. That was bad. How is everybody doing tonight? I apologize for that little technical glitch there. There was some audio playing in the background. So here we are. We're at episode 6 of the Linux Tech and Gaming Podcast. We are sticking with Google Hangouts again just because of the amount of research and whatnot and getting everything working that would be involved with using a different video conferencing software, and different live streaming software and getting it all merged together and getting it up. So we just decided to go with Google Hangouts once again. Hopefully that is sufficient for everybody. And I'm kind of excited about today's show. We actually just came up with the topics kind of late yesterday. Actually, Osiris did. I got to give him full credit. And he's got some good topics to discuss today. So I didn't even actually. Why don't we go through and everybody, kind of give your plugs for your channels and whatnot. Here's Atomic Ass first.
Hey, I'm the Atomic Ass, and I've got a YouTube channel where I review Linux games to see how well they run. And you can also find me on Twitter at the Atomic Ass.
All right, and just as a friendly reminder, just like every show, down in the description below, guys, on YouTube, the links to our YouTubes and our Twitter handles are in the description down below. So now we will go to Osiris.
Osiris, that's me. I do mostly tutorials and how-tos and some playing games, mostly live streaming type stuff on my channel, which is, I found out the URL finally. It is youtube.com/user/Micmo79. I don't know where that came from, but that's what it is. But just search Osiris Tech on YouTube and you'll find it, and at Osiris on Twitter to find me in a faster fashion.
All right. Well, Osiris, you're the one that came up with all the topics. Why don't you take us into our first topic?
Okay, hold on. Let me pause this. All right. Let's see. Okay, Counter-Strike Go. I think all of us know what that is. If you don't know what that is, well, you should know what that is. And it's probably the most. It's probably the most popular first-person shooter on PC in the history of PC since Counter-Strike 1.6, Counter-Strike Source. Now we have Global Offensive on the Linux side of things. It's a very fun game. If you haven't tried it out, it's not like Battlefield or Call of Duty. You can actually have a lot of fun in it, even if you're a casual FPS player or if you're a hardcore or a competitive player. But it did get launched. It does work very well under Linux right now. There's a few little bugs here and there, but nothing to be worried about or show-stopping. So you guys should definitely check out Counter-Strike Global Offensive if you don't already have it.
Yeah, and actually, that was the only Counter-Strike that wasn't on Linux yet. Is that true?
I believe that's the only Valve title in all that wasn't on Linux yet. I'm pretty sure that's the only Valve title that's not on Linux.
There was one other, as I recall. Which one was it?
Portal 1, Portal 2 is on Linux.
No, those are both on.
Yeah.
I know what it is. It's like some obscure game, like Alien Swarm or something. No?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think Atomic's tongue-tied looking for it. But so that's the last. So how many different Counter-Strikes are there? There's got to be like 4 or 5
Four.
different Counter-Strikes, isn't there? There's 4?
Just
I
3.
think so.
Oh, 3. Okay, sorry. So
No.
this is the last one that finally came to Linux, and it's Global Offense. Cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and actually, you know, I was seeing the other day on Twitter, someone said, you know, what's with all the CS:GO hype? When the game first came out, you know, for Windows, people, I guess, like, you know, people in the gaming community that are in hardcore first-person shooters like Call of Duty and Battlefield and other games like that, they didn't really flock to the new Counter-Strike. And actually, I remember hearing rumblings saying, like, oh, you know, Global Offense isn't as good as the other ones, you know, the very first Counter-Strike that came out. And now, though, since it's actually been in the limelight on Twitch, like in the esports arena, it's actually, people are starting to, you know, get back into Counter-Strike and Global Offense just because of the esports, you know, arena type area. I don't know if you guys see that at all.
The thing about Counter-Strike is it has a very, very loyal and dedicated core group, like World of Warcraft or any of those types of people. So when you change anything like that has like a very like fanatical following, people automatically just don't like it. So it took a while for
okay,
Counter-Strike.
Sure. That makes sense.
Yeah. So that everybody rejected it. They're like, no, that's not. It's not the same. It's not better than our old one. And then when they
Right.
find out it was better, everybody went over there.
Right.
Because Valve doesn't make trash games.
Okay, I've got the information there. Left 4 Dead 1 is not on Linux yet, and it doesn't have a beta yet.
It probably will never be, since Left 4 Dead 1 is in Left 4 Dead 2. Like, I think everything that's in Left 4 Dead 1 is in Left 4 Dead 2. If I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that could be. Like all the maps that were in Left 4 Dead 1, you're saying are in Left 4 Dead 2?
Yes.
Okay. Huh. I don't know if I knew that. That's cool.
I think they'll still port it eventually, though, because they ported the original Half-Life and the original Half-Life based on the Source engine. 2 separate games.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Learn something new every day. But yeah, Counter-Strike is a big deal. If you didn't know it was a big deal, then I don't know what to tell you.
I still don't know it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal. Like, you know, Dota 2 is a big deal. I mean, it might not be your cup of tea or it's not your thing, but it's definitely a big deal. Matter of fact, Counter-Strike is the #1 PC competitive game, I think. It rakes in. If it's not Counter-Strike, it's Dota. It's between the two of them. But it's definitely the #1 first-person shooter competitive game. And these type of games rake in millions and like events and stuff like that.
Right, yeah. That's kind of what I was just kind of pointing at.
I think there's actually a church of Dota 2 in Sweden, isn't there?
Really?
Oh, wow.
Swedish people.
I was trying to look up top esports games real quick and just see what earnings, highest overall earnings. Okay, Dota 2. Wow, this person has made $1 million playing Dota 2 apparently
It was probably a group of 5.
in his whole life. It lists. I think it's listing what his total earnings are for his whole life. In playing, you know, professional Dota 2. And then StarCraft Blood War is on there. StarCraft 2 Painkiller. Wonder what game that is.
It's the game you have.
Well, I have Painkiller, yeah, Hell and Damnation. I don't know if that's the second one, and Painkiller is the first one, but I didn't realize there was a huge esports scene for Painkiller. Dota 2, Dota 2, Dota 2. There we go, Counter-Strike's finally listed. Somebody from Norway. He's got $190,000 made.
Yeah, I think that's what he personally made, but like Atomic pointed out, those guys play in teams also. So
Right. Yeah, I'm aware of that. Yep.
but
I
like,
actually followed the Call of Duty gaming scene for maybe about a year. I even went to a live UMG LAN tournament that was held in Illinois. It was it's if you've never been to a tournament, a LAN tournament, it's an experience to say the least, man. I mean, it's pretty crazy, you know, with all the guys up on the main stage and you're watched on the screen, you know, because Call of Duty added in a bunch of spectating features and live commentating features where you can follow a different person, or you can not even, you know, be following in the person's eyes. You can look up from a certain point on the map and look at a certain area, and I mean it's freaking, you know, it's shown play by play, almost like football. I mean, these announcers that are doing the shows sound just like, you know, professional football and professional baseball announcers. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's how Counter-Strike is. Matter of fact, Counter-Strike has it down to where when you do spectator there's spectator and there's announcer mode. Spectator and announcer mode both will automatically, like, I don't know, automatically just go to where the action is, and it looks very professional, like you said, like almost like a live sporting event, like a football game.
Yeah,
it's very well polished.
All right, take us into the next topic, I guess.
All right, so
Jimmy McNulty is that it's Toothless Snake? Is that what he's saying in the chat? I think that's what he put. But isn't McNulty? He's from some popular TV show, isn't he? Jimmy McNulty. I think he was in. I think he was in The Wire or something.
I don't know. I don't watch TV.
Some famous. Yeah, that's exactly who it is. He's Detective Jimmy McNulty from The Wire, the show, which is an awesome show. If you haven't seen The Wire, you're missing out, dude. You gotta see The Wire. Freaking awesome show. But anyway, sorry to take you off topic there. Go ahead.
All right. Yeah, so Steam got a major overhaul finally. If you're a beta Steam user, then you noticed that it slowly was migrating to a new style. But more importantly, the Steam store got a major overhaul, and they fixed what everybody was complaining about, which was the method of curation. How are you presented with the types of games that you may or may not like, and the problem with whenever a developer releases a new game, regardless how good or crappy the game is, it automatically gets auto bumped to the top of the store. So if I'm a developer and I release 10 games from 1997, they all get put at the top of the story, no matter how irrelevant they are.
Right.
And as a side note, our Steam group, Linux Tech and Gaming, has its own curation store too. Games that we recommend. Basically, you guys can add it too because you're admins, but I put mostly what we play in our curation store. So if you guys want to play with us, check out our curation store, Linux Tech and Gaming, Steam groups, and see what we play.
Yeah, I noticed that with one of the update, or with the Steam update, that they added in this curation thing and curators, and anybody that any Steam user can create a group, you know, and then review games and basically become a curator. And that's basically what Osiris is saying that we did with our group. You know, we have the Linux Tech and Gaming Steam group, and you know, we can write reviews about games. We can link to external websites. We can link to YouTube videos. So I think it's pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely another you know, option for basically kind of marketing our YouTube channels.
Yep. And it's definitely a way. Part of the whole curation thing is it's definitely a way for like-minded people to now suggest and find suggestions for type of stuff they want to play. Like I said, Duke Nukem got released today again, like Hyper HD edition. I mean, that's cool, but should it be at the top of the store Steam store page?
Right. Yeah.
Nukem. Why would it not be?
I tried playing. Well, go ahead. Yeah, what are you gonna say?
But like, what the problem is, it would bump off a game like Call of Duty out of the store because it just filters down in order of release.
Right.
The old way they did, and that's just obviously not the best way. Like you don't do that at a real store. You put your best stuff at the top of the racks.
Right.
And you give
Yeah.
them more shelf space.
Right.
And that's pretty much what they did here. They made it more realistic.
Yep. You can now you can personalize it too, just for you. So you can customize your view. You have new configuration options that let you select the kind of products that you wish to include in each area. You know, from top sellers, early access products, pre-purchase, DLC for your games and software you already own, popular new releases, recommended for you, which I guess is another thing that they kind of fine-tuned, I guess you could say. Let's see. Go ahead.
The UI, and then they, like as a little nitpick, they also updated the UI so it's more of a modern flat theme, which is where all the UI designers seem to be moving towards anyways. Windows 8, many of the Linux distributions are more flatter in their default theming, except for Ubuntu, because Ubuntu likes to be different.
Yeah, now it's got like kind of bluish and black coloring, I noticed.
For y'all that don't know, KDE 5 will also be a flat theme by default. So everything's pretty much flat themes now.
Well, can you elaborate on that? When you say flat thing, what do you mean?
Flat thing, like, like, basically that would entail, like, usually squared icons with a very flat look to them, not very 3D-ish. There's not going to be a lot of shadowing to them.
I got what you're saying. Okay, sure.
Yeah. Which is cool. I like it. I like it simple. Like some of these 3D things, like the shading, and just looks awkward to me.
Yeah.
And also, if you look in your library, I don't know if you're in the beta version. That's what I'm actually using.
I'm not. No.
But what do you call these things? The thumbnails for your games are also more flat. Like they're much more sharper with less shading behind it, shadowing behind it. I mean, so just little things, just make it look a little bit more cleaner. And probably what they're doing is they're converging with the SteamOS look and feel for when SteamOS gets released.
Right. That makes sense.
So I can't wait.
So apparently there is a Gone Home map mod for CS:GO.
I saw that.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw it either on somebody tweeted it or something.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even think I didn't play Gone Home. Did you guys play that?
I watched it. I haven't played it yet, but I have it in my library.
It's on my wish list.
Isn't it? It's a game kind of like investigative search type puzzle type game, isn't it?
Yeah.
'Cause I thought I looked into it.
It's a little light on the puzzling, but
you basically come home, right, and then you find that nobody's home at your house, everybody's gone, and you got to figure out where they went or something.
You have to figure out where your sister went.
Oh, okay. All right, gotcha.
Yeah, Counter-Strike Go though, the community servers are a lot like the TF2 and Gary's Mod, I guess, servers you could say. People just come up with like weird stuff and throw it out there. But this is notable because it looks so much like Gone Home. Whoever made this server or whoever made these levels or whatever you want to call it did an excellent job at it. Like it's almost identical, which is hard to do on two different engines.
Okay, here's a description. Your family is mysteriously missing again, but you can figure that out later. Right now you have more pressing issues to attend to, like the fact that your house is full of terrorists and some dude has been taken hostage.
Yeah, it's a weird game. And from what I understand, it's not even really much of a game. It's just you wandering around doing things and figuring out this so-called puzzle that's really not much of a puzzle because it's kind of guided, I understand. But it still gets pretty good remarks, so who knows?
Yeah. It's more about the story than it is the puzzles.
The level supports up to 32 players.
32? That house is big, but it isn't that big.
So the whole game is played just inside the house? Like, really? Or is it on the whole property, I'm guessing?
No,
I'm watching a short YouTube video on it real quick.
I would have to imagine it has to be on the whole property because
it's
that'd
kind
be a
of
crowded house.
mansion-ish, but it's not huge. 32 is crowded.
Yeah.
I would suspect so, yeah.
The author suggests playing it with significantly fewer than 32, of course.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's awesome. So CS Counter-Strike Go was officially released for Linux. Was that yesterday, Osiris, or Monday? I don't know, just very recently. It just finally got released, so that's cool. So now all the CS:GO games are available for Linux.
It was
all the
Monday.
CS games. Excuse me. Monday. Okay.
And to the Valve's credit, it showed up on people's Steam libraries, Linux library, for people who are on Linux. It showed up in their Steam libraries, and within the hour, the executable was decrypted and able to be played. Unlike Borderlands 2. I'm still looking at Borderlands 2 in my Steam library every single day, wondering like, when's this gonna happen? Why? I don't even understand why they put it in there.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, I'm looking at Borderlands 2, and I still don't understand how you see it in your library.
You see it there. You can install it, but it doesn't install anything.
Yeah, pretty much. You don't see it in your library?
Not for Linux, no.
Atomic, are you running the beta?
Oh, wait. So you're saying... Oh, wait just a second. Let me look at my library.
Yes, I am in the beta.
Okay, yeah, I do see it there. I can click... Okay, I do see it there, but that's because I have... This is a dual boot machine, and I have Borderlands 2 installed on this rig in Windows. That's why it's in my library, though.
No, it didn't.
No. You can't...
Your library should show everything.
Right, it does. It shows my Windows games and my Linux games. That's what I'm saying.
No, sorted by SteamOS plus Linux games only. Right there where it says library.
Yeah, it is.
But see, that means it's available for Linux. It doesn't know what's on your Windows.
Oh, I see what you're getting at now.
Yeah, it has no idea if you're dual booting or not.
Okay, because I'm looking for. Yeah, you're right. BioShock isn't in the list, so that means it doesn't see. Okay, all right, because it's sorted by SteamOS plus Linux. It's only showing Linux games.
And that's been there for about 2 weeks now, just teasing us.
But wait, I guess what I'm trying to understand is why is it in my library?
That's what we're saying. Why is it there? We can't play it.
Well, I mean, you're saying it's in everybody's library? I don't get. I'm confused.
Yes, if you're on Linux and you own Borderlands 2, it's in your library and has been there for a few weeks now.
Oh, it's only if you own. Okay, all right, I got it now.
Yeah,
I'm slow. Sorry.
Yeah, see, like that's what they did with Counter-Strike. So they released the game, because I'm pretty sure this is the way it works. Before they release it, they're gonna put it in a Steam database and make sure the files are on the server, whatever it is they have to go through, which then causes it eventually to show up in everybody's library. And then, but to keep people from actually playing it, they encrypt the executable file. So you download it, you install it, but it won't, but it's gonna tell you there's no executable because it's encrypted. That's what they did with Counter-Strike, and I guess that's what they're doing with Borderlands because they're not ready. The Borderlands developers have said though that they were holding it. I think it was them. They were holding it because they're working out like last-minute bug fixes, trying to get it right.
Okay.
But Civilization 5 and XCOM and Metro Last Light have pretty much set the bar for AAA titles. You can't You can't release no AAA title and it be garbage anymore. That's not a thing anymore. So
Right.
hopefully that's what they're aiming at.
Sweet.
Yep.
All right.
So,
Moving along, we have we'll take a viewer count here. We have 2 people watching. Woo woo! And it's probably you haven't opened another window. And so
it's still not too bad, 'cause we've been getting pretty good viewership after the fact. Decent enough.
yeah, I'd like to see some, some growth somehow. I wonder if we could reach out to some of the other Linux podcasts or somebody like. We'll talk to Nixie Pixel and see if she can give us a shout out.
That's the biggest
Good
of the
luck.
big.
Good luck, eh? Atomic
Yeah.
says.
Yeah, right.
You'd probably have better luck contacting Ven Stone.
Yeah, probably.
Well, there we go. He actually did follow me on Twitter. I think during last week's podcast, I think he started following me.
Yep.
But it's basically just getting the word out, to other Linux gamers that we're doing this show. That's really what it boils down to, because YouTube's not really built where we're going to just get random viewers into our live stream. I don't think,
No,
unless somebody does a search right now on YouTube this very second and does, and types in Linux gaming. I don't even think it would show up in the list.
No, yeah, it's hard to find live events on YouTube. I've found out.
Yep. I just typed in Linux gaming and we're not even on the first page.
Yeah, no, you're not going to. But you are on the first or second page if you actually look up like Linux tech and gaming with it, and then you filter it by like the last week or the last month. So that is good. But the thing is that on YouTube, there's really not even a big Linux gaming scene. I mean, there's really not a huge Linux scene on YouTube, but definitely not a huge Linux gaming scene. Because I try to look for as many Linux-specific YouTubers as I can, and there's just not many of them.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, well, go ahead and take us into our next topic, Osiris. This is a good one. I like this one.
Yes, this is one of my favorites, actually.
Yep.
So, as some of you may or may not know, NVIDIA released their latest graphics cards, the GTX 970 and the GTX 980, built on their new Maxwell architecture. I believe it was on the night. Was it on the 19th? Or it was recent. What day was it? I can't remember. But when
It was
that
last
doesn't matter
week
what day they
sometime.
released.
Yeah.
It's unimportant when they were released, but this is what's important. When they released the cards, on the same day they released the cards and the new drivers for Windows, they released the new drivers for Linux, which is a huge milestone and accomplishment for Linux, because that shows very big third-party hardware support for the Linux platform and Linux gaming also. Something that we've been sorely lacking in for a long time. So, big round of applause for NVIDIA for releasing not only their drivers on the for Linux, but on the same day, and with about 97% of the same feature set as their Windows ones, with the same performance. That is going to probably guarantee them a spot in most Steam machines when they're released, also, which I'm thinking they might be working towards.
I have a feeling that 4K gaming is in my future.
You're still going to need 2 of them, though. 2 graphics cards.
Yeah, probably.
I don't even understand what the thing is with this 4K gaming. It's like indie racing. Like if I race my street car, I mean indie racing sounds good, but is that really what I want?
It's 4 times more pixels than you get with 1080p. Plus, think of the EPEAN points.
There you go. Well, at least you're honest.
This actually segues perfectly with what you just talked about with the 970 and 980 Linux graphics drivers, because I actually watched a YouTube video there was a new world record set for the largest 4K display gaming session. And let me quickly find the link. They played 4K gaming session largest world record. They played basically on like you know the screen like at a horse racing track. That screen, like you know how big it is.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
They basically played. They played Borderlands the pre-sequel on that large of a display. I'll put it in the chat. It's actually a YouTube video, and guess which video cards they used? They used dual 980s to power this display.
Wow.
Dual 980s powered this display. That's gigantic, dude. I mean, it doesn't even say what size the display is in the description. I'm looking and I don't see it in the description.
Of course, you said this was Borderlands?
The pre-sequel, yes.
Yeah, Borderlands 2 is pretty well optimized, so I wouldn't be surprised if the pre-sequel is optimized as well.
I agree with that 100%. They're not
but it doesn't really matter the game. I mean, just think about how large this display is.
Oh yeah, you're right. I mean, if you're focusing on the display, yeah, that's ridiculous. But if you're focusing also on 4K, still you're not running for like Crysis 3 or Metro Last Light.
It was actually they did it during Game 24 apparently.
Yeah, that was too long. I didn't watch all that. It was 24 hours long. I tried to, and it was boring too. As a note.
I mean, this display is gigantic. I wish I could share. I can share my screen. I just want to show the viewers the screen. It's gigantic. I'll share my screen real quick.
Be careful with those copyright strikes.
Yeah, it'll only be shortly, or for a moment. Look at the size of this screen, you guys. Look at that screen. I mean, it's just huge.
Where do you buy one of those?
It wouldn't even fit in your yard. Come on now.
I'll just buy.
I wish they would show. And I mean, look at how good it looks because it's 4K resolution. It's not all pixelated and crappy looking. I mean, it's pretty crisp for how large a display that is. And it was dual 980s that powered it. That's crazy.
Yep, I know what I'm getting. Unless the 780 Ti or 980 Ti comes out before I have the money to purchase it.
You know the 980 Ti is going to come out right after the R9 390X comes out. Just so they can say, boom, did it again.
Yeah, I remember when they did that with the 780 and the 780 Ti.
Yeah. That's pretty much how it's going to work. And then with the like we've talked about before, with NVIDIA coming out with the 970 and 980 with such an aggressively priced cards, that sets the whole tone for the rest of this whole GPU cycle. So that means that the 390X is going to have to be very reasonable in price, which means that the 980 Ti is going to have to be pretty reasonable in price. Like we're talking
600, you think?
About 650.
Yeah.
And when I think the 780 Ti came out around what, 700-800?
Yeah, it was pretty ridiculous.
It's gonna be good stuff though. And hopefully AMD can catch up on their Linux drivers, and we can actually have competition on our side too.
Right.
I think by ideology that most Linux users are fans of AMD. Not most, a lot. I'll just say a lot. I can't say most. But I think a lot of people like AMD for the same reasons they like Linux. Just such a shame they won't support it.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think it's that they won't support it. They're just, I don't think they're being as aggressive as Nvidia is as far as updating the drivers. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they did. Well, the Mesa drivers, the open source drivers.
We're here to rob your house.
The reason I heard that they
The door was locked. Sorry, go ahead, Osiris. What?
the reason I heard that the open source drivers were gaining so much headway so quickly was because AMD was the ones actually contributing to it also. So it's not like they just don't do Linux. It's just that I don't either they don't have the resources or they don't have they either don't have the manpower or the resources to commit as much as Intel and Nvidia have been committing towards their driver stack on Linux.
Right. Well, and something to point out too, since we're just kind of talking about AMD Linux drivers, Valve actually created a is it a web page or what did they create to kind of shame AMD almost?
It's a thread in the forum. It's just a thread in the forum, the Valve forums or the Steam forums, which really I don't think that's the best way to go about it because it really hasn't got that much responses. I have it bookmarked. I check it regularly and I get a notification when it gets added to. I added my 2 cents to it, and from the people I've seen in there, we all and like we're talking about from generally if you consider yourself a gamer, you have at least AMD 6X card and up. And so from the AMD 6000 series all the way up to the R9 series, you're having pretty much the same issues. Just very elementary issues too. Think like just simple things that just shouldn't be happening whatsoever. But it's good to note that they're uniform across most people. That means that AMD should know what it is and replicate it, be able to replicate the problem.
Right.
I've actually had less bugs than most people. And I'm on
Well, I think the bugs have been, you know, AMD did release that 14.6 beta catalyst back in July, which I think fixed a bunch of things that were broken, you know.
Yeah, but that's also very dependent upon your specific architecture. So what got fixed in, I don't even know what they call the 7000 series, some of the stuff that's in the 7000 series, but say something that got fixed in Hawaii, which is my 290X, did not get fixed in Tahiti, or vice versa.
Oh, right.
Yeah, so they're going to definitely have to lock down the singularity of their performance, much like NVIDIA has done. It just really doesn't matter what you run. It all scales perfectly from the low end to the mid end to the high end, regardless of chipset, regardless of anything else. When you buy something like that, you plug it in, and it does what you paid for. That's where they need to get to. Because it really shouldn't be about benchmarks. It should just be about experience. And right now, the better experience is bar none NVIDIA for Linux.
Right. Yep.
So.
Yeah, well, I hope the both companies square off against each other, because I want the cheapest, highest performing cards I can afford when I can afford them.
That work. Right.
Yeah, I think that's what we all want. And then once they get that squared away, they need to go back to their high-end desktop market and ditch, completely throw away all the designs and plans for the current architecture, like grind them up in a paper shredder and start over again. And so that we can have a comparable and competitive CPU on the AMD side that's worth the money as in comparison to Intel's. Like I said, I believe that I believe that a lot of Linux users by ideology are AMD supporters for the very same reasons we like Linux, are some of the same reasons we would like AMD. Uh, it's not like we don't want you to win. We just need you to help us root for you.
Huh. Yeah. All right. Sorry, I just had a guest walk in, and I kind of lost my focus here for a moment. I apologize, everybody. All right, so that kind of that pretty much wraps up the. Well, we were talking about originally the 970 and 980 graphics driver support for Linux being released the same day that they released the drivers for Windows. And then we kind of segued into the AMD drivers and how that we kind of always end up talking about the AMD drivers every week, it seems like, and
Probably because it's my biggest pain.
Right, you're the one with the high-end 290X and suffering the Linux graphics issues, right? Yeah, you said that you installed one of the latest Catalyst and actually saw a little bit of improvement, but there's still some stuttering that you shouldn't be seeing on a 290X.
Yeah, I finally got the benchmarks and the performance where it should be relative to Windows, meaning in between the 780 and the 780 Ti, which is where it's supposed to be, and that's good. But there's still slight hints of that micro stutter, which is kind of ironic because the micro stutter problem was the same problem they were having, a major problem they were having on Windows just a couple years ago.
Oh, really? Okay.
I mean, that was a huge scandal, so to say, and that was something that PC called AMD out on, and they then had to admit it because it was such a high-profile thing, and they fixed it, and it made their whole lineup of cards considerably better once they fixed the micro stutter.
Now, if only we could get that kind of support out of them for Linux.
I know, right? That's all we need is some high-profile review site or high-profile person to just say, "Hey, get your shit together." Hopefully, I just want Valve to do it. If Valve does it, just makes it easier on everybody. There doesn't have to be no middle fingers and none of that stuff going on.
Right. All right, so moving along into the next topic, can commercial Linux gaming succeed? And Osiris had found an article written by...
Bruce Botkin.
Go ahead, Osiris. You're the one that found the article.
I just wanted to raise the topic. Not so much about the article as about the topic.
Right.
A thing in a major discussion, a portion of what Linux's issues are, is it an acceptable platform for commercial software? And do some of the people who are like fanatical Linux users, do they want proprietary software? And can you push that to the public? Now, some would say that Android has proved that you can turn Linux into commercial software and win. And not only win big.
Yeah.
But, the desktop has been a different thing, and I was just wondering what everybody else thought. Can Linux support commercial software at the consumer level?
That's a tough one. I would say, I don't know.
There's really no proof and point historically. That's the issue. Not that I know of.
Right.
So we're treading into some new waters. I watched a very good interview from Icarus. He's on Twitter at Icarus. He's a developer, and you can think of him as a porter. He's ported many Linux games. He is like a guru of porting Windows games to Linux for the last like 20-30 years. But I watched an interview that he did with Linux Action Show, and he seems to believe that it's very possible for Valve to win this and make commercial software a viable option on the Linux platform uh, because of their approach and because it's Valve. Because they take their time and they do it right. So I'm kind of hoping so. But if you've been using Linux for more than 5 years, we've been hearing about the year of the Linux desktop for the last 15 years, 10 years.
Yeah.
And everybody claims it's this year and it's that year. Icarus actually said that there will never be a year of the desktop. Which I agree with. I don't think there will ever be a singular year where you can say, wow, now that was the year, until the year is already passed. So hopefully, I think it's heavily reliant upon Steam machines. If the Steam machines just gain zero traction, all you're left with is the Linux desktop users, which unfortunately is not enough of the market to matter in the grand scheme of the game industry. I just don't believe it's enough to matter. It's not going to turn the tide. You're not going to see people flocking from Windows 8 to Linux because they don't like the UI. That's never going to happen either. It sounds good in theory, but it's just too big of a paradigm for people to want to do that just because they don't like the start menu. Matter of fact, most people just went back to Windows 7 and we're completely happy. So I think a lot of this is just going to rely on Steam machines, and I still don't think Valve Gaming will increase the market share of Linux desktops. Not significantly.
Well, it will bring us into the living room, and from the living room, we can go to the office.
That you know what, and that is a good point. Because I believe more importantly than being in home desktops, you need to be in governments, you need to be in schools, and you need to be in businesses. Because the reason that Windows is so entrenched in our society, at least American society, is because when you go to school, you learn Windows. When you graduate from school, you learn Windows. When they give you, and then if you work, and then the governments a lot of them use Windows. As the general desktop, obviously not like mainframe servers or nothing like that, but it's just something that we see, sleep, hear, dream, and just been forced to love just out of repetition.
Yeah, I don't see governments giving up Windows because they can build backdoors into Linux, but we can find them just as easily.
Yeah, open audits.
Yeah.
You're right. Well, American government, there's been several high-profile governments who have switched completely to Linux. Munich, Germany being one of them. Some city in England also being another.
Yeah, I remember seeing an article about a huge like police force, switch to Linux as well.
Yeah, it's becoming a thing because we're not in the era of just super high profit margins that we were like in the 90s. And
right.
So
yeah, people are looking for ways to cut costs or cut down on IT expenses or whatever.
And plus a lot of other countries, because just for the simple fact Microsoft's a US-based country, just don't trust them because of that. And they're trying to cut their ties with the United States and United States-based companies. I mean, whatever reason floats your boat. I don't care how you get there, just get to Linux. That's fine with me. But I think American schools need to really, like, we have a huge issue, a budget issue in our schools. So why are we paying for these licenses? For like, I used to work deploying computers in schools. A lot of these computers in these schools, I would say the overwhelming majority are still on Windows XP. Now, tell me that's not a security problem.
Right, and a lot of them are actually underpowered to run Windows XP. They probably either run it really slow or horribly, whereas a really lightweight version of Linux like Lubuntu or Xubuntu, that's got a really lightweight desktop environment would run blazingly fast on that type of hardware.
Yeah. And it's funny because Windows XP has no security. So if you go on a registry and say, this is what they would do. It's so funny to me when I was in school. They would wipe out the taskbar. So they would think, oh, you can't find the taskbar, therefore you can't do nothing else on this computer. Really?
Wow.
Is that your solution to me not opening up File Explorer when obviously the Windows key still works? Come on, guys.
Right.
You're doing it wrong. Hire smarter admins and put Linux on your stuff. Teach your kids something that's versatile and open source, so that our country can have a future in the rest of the market, the worldwide market. But I just don't know. Like that's still something that's to be debated, I guess. Commercial software on Linux.
Yeah.
But Android did it.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there are currently Linux or Canonical-based apps that actually cost money through like the Ubuntu Software Center. I'd be interested to see what the numbers are. For how much those software packages are purchased. You know what I mean?
There's
Me personally, I don't pay for any software I use in Linux except for games. So I don't know about you guys. Have you guys ever paid for any software?
I don't think I've paid for software in 10 or 15 years, period.
I haven't, but not because I don't want to. I haven't because A, there hasn't been a reason, because many of the open source solutions are good enough, and B, because if I'm going to pay money for software, it needs to be of commercial quality. Like if
you want the support there. You want the I know what you're saying. Yeah.
If Sony Vegas came to Linux, that would be worth paying for. If you needed that. That's what I'm saying. There's just currently nothing close to Sony Vegas or anything like that. Adobe Premiere on people can cite me Lightworks and KD and Live all they want to. Please don't do it. It's not worth it because they're not even close. They're just not. But who knows? Maybe there's some companies out there who are taking a look at Valve's and seeing what they're doing, jotting down notes, seeing where they misstep at, and then let's say Adobe Premiere, I mean this is hypothetical, or Sony Vegas or Final Cut, let's say they want to roll out their own editing machines. They could dump a Linux kernel onto a editing machine, sell it as a Adobe Premiere machine, and have Adobe Premiere running on Linux, but it just be an Adobe Premiere desktop. Stuff like that's still possible.
Right. I know in the article it actually it had an actual example. The company is called Loki Software. They ported games like Civilization and Railway Tycoon around the turn of the millennium, but they actually failed financially. So, they tried to basically, make money in porting Linux games, but they just they failed, unfortunately.
Well, Icarus, the guy I mentioned earlier, Icarus, he worked for Loki back then.
Oh, okay.
And
so
according
the guy's obviously been around. He's in the industry, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, he's worked on stuff as recent as Goat Simulator. Like he's definitely one of the guys we should hold in the highest regard in Linux gaming. But he's saying that there was many reasons why Loki failed. First of all, it was before its time, because back then they had to sell. If you sold, say, Unreal Tournament on Windows, because there was only physical copies, you had to resell it again for a Linux user, even if they owned the other version, because you can't verify that through CD keys or verification methods back then.
Yeah.
So there was many small issues that made a big issue just because they were before their time, and it just wasn't financially viable back then.
Yeah.
Before the internet.
I'm trying to... this Icarus guy, do you know he's not the one that ported, like, Painkiller, Hell and Damnation, and the Titan, or the, what's it called, Adventures that I play. Is he?
His name is Ryan C. Gordon. and he has
Oh,
a
Ryan C. Gordon. Okay, then never mind. That's not the same guy.
yeah, he goes by Icarus. And he's ported games such as like on the Humble Bundle alone, he did Dear Esther, Dungeon Defender, Psychonauts, Space Pirates and Zombies, Super Meat Boy, Braid, Shank, Frozen Synapse, like all staple like Linux games and indie games. And then he's also done Goat Simulator, Left 4 Dead 2, Red Orchestra, uh, Google Earth of of all things, Postal 2, Second Life, Unreal Tournament 2003, and he's also done a handful of Mac OS stuff. Like he's definitely a cornerstone in
Yeah.
what we have now.
Nice. All right. Well, we have one more last topic that I kind of added during the day, and it was something that I just thought I should maybe just mention to our viewers, and it's in regards to the there's actually a Bash vulnerability. There's a vulnerability in the software or in the tool bin bash. Bash is stands for the Born Again shell, and it's basically, to those of you that aren't familiar with Linux and whatnot, it's basically like a command line kind of thing. The shell is like a terminal or a command type interface where you can enter commands. And there is a vulnerability in Bash that would allow remote or would allow execution of code, and you didn't want it to. The major attack areas are in HTTP requests and CGI scripts. Now, as Osiris pointed out, this really isn't to be too, for normal consumers like you and I and whatnot that just, that run a Linux desktop environment, and we don't have any ports forwarded to the internet and whatnot. For us, it's no big deal. We don't have to worry about this. But it is a pretty serious vulnerability, that somehow slipped through the cracks, and it affects pretty much anything that Unix-based, Linux-based that runs Bash as the default shell. So there's already patches for Novell, SUSE, Debian, Ubuntu, Red Hat, Fedora, CentOS. So everybody's is aware of it and are patching Bash, and it's just something I thought I would point out, because I know a lot of people, me being one of them, I do tout Linux as being more secure than Windows. To people that I try to convert to Linux, I say Linux is more secure. Come over here. You don't have to deal with hackers and viruses and whatnot. Well, here is a perfect case in point where there is a vulnerability in the software in Linux, because if it has Bash as its default shell, it is a vulnerability that can affect you if you're using if you're running like a web server or something. So Linux isn't perfect to say, and it's not virus or exploitable free. I will say that. So I just wanted to point that out.
This
Well, it is,
also.
man.
Go ahead.
Tommy. Go ahead.
It also affects Mac OS X as well.
Right. Yep. I forgot to say that if I didn't. Sorry. Yeah. Good catch.
All I was gonna say is that Linux is made by man, and I don't know any man that's perfect, so Linux isn't perfect.
Yep.
But this is one of those things that just floated under the radar because it wasn't important to consumer desktop users, and enterprises and commercial entities that would be using Linux that this might be important for would probably have a very huge layer of blanket security anyways. So it just kind of slipped in the cracks, I believe. Definitely something to take notice of, though, because the thing that raises my eyebrow is that how long it went unnoticed.
Right. Yeah, they said it. I mean, they said that it's been the vulnerability has been in Bash since version like man, where was it? Which article? I don't know, but yeah, it's been in there for a long time. Someone obviously found out how to exploit that vulnerability just recently, though, or it was just recently documented anyway.
Yeah, and for those who are wondering, I think it was yesterday. I did get, or was it today? It was either yesterday or today. I did get a Bash update on Linux Mint. I'm sure Ubuntu did too. I
I didn't notice, but I probably did. Yeah.
The only reason I noticed is because Linux Mint's update manager is very good at displaying exactly what it is you're getting with the color coded numbers.
Sure.
So, yeah, I was like, that was weird. I was actually going to tweet it out. I was like, wow, that's weird that I'm getting a Bash update today. Because I didn't know why I was getting a Bash. Like, who updates Bash for what? For what reason?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm looking at this this test vulnerability, and I don't understand how this is actually a vulnerability.
Because
it says here
the issue is that it should not be able to do that.
Right.
From a remote system.
Yeah, it allows remote attackers to execute arbitrary code via a crafted environment, as demonstrated by vectors involving the force command feature in OpenSSH, SSHD, the mod_CGI, and mod_CGID modules in the Apache HTTP server, scripts executed by unspecified DHCP clients, and other situations in which setting the environment occurs across a privilege boundary from Bash execution.
I see what it is. So the issue is they set in an empty variable in X, and that should cause the system to say, hey, what is this and what's going on? Whereas if it's broken, it just allows it to happen. That means that you can set empty variables when remote attacking somebody, and the system is going to still let you in. That's what I'm reading from this command line script that they have right here. So the problem is x equals, and then there's nothing. It's an empty variable. Now I'm definitely no Bash shell scripter, and not great at it. But it looks like it's setting an empty environment, and then that's allowing you to do whatever you want to, which actually is pretty common in Windows. That's a common like bug and vulnerability. Like it pops up all the time in different forms and fashions.
I guess I just don't understand, not being a programmer myself, how you can even create a vulnerability, even by accident, that actually allows access rather than just crashing the software.
Well, I've done a little bit of programming, mostly because of schooling, but the thing with programming is it's like creating anything else from scratch. If you create a video, or if you create art, or if you create anything, then you can pretty much build anything that you want, right or wrong. Programming allows you to do that, especially if you're programming and this is probably like C-level stuff, like low level.
Well, here's one example. It says that common embedded devices with web-enabled front ends shuttle user input back and forth via Bash shells. So since they shuttle this user information back and forth via a Bash shell, for example, routers, medical equipment, and all sorts of webified gadgets, they'll be exposed.
That's odd, because I thought the default means of issuing commands was secure shell. Like, who uses Bash shell over the network? Like,
how do you even use Bash shell over the network? We use a Netcat.
Yeah, that
Well,
stuff I don't know.
I mean, when I learned this when I went to school in 2001, you could use Bash Shell over the network, but like at no point, matter of fact, they emphatically said, never do you use this on a secure network or anything that's important. So basically, well, you still have to log into it. You're right. So you still have to do some type of secure shell net. I don't even know. Maybe that's why it went unseen for so long because it's just something that's not relevant.
Right. Yeah. I think for us, as just consumer users of Linux and what we do, this definitely isn't something that we should worry about. I just wanted to bring it up just because, I sadly I am one of the ones that say, oh, Linux is more secure. I'll tweet it out and I'll create arguments on Twitter about Linux, just supporting it and total fanboying over Linux and all this. But I did want to come clean and admit, that Linux isn't perfect, and this is just one, vulnerability within, a tool that's used within Linux. I mean, this isn't even really necessarily Bash Bash is a shell, and a shell is just I don't even know. I mean, I don't want to take this into talking about what a shell is, but it's I don't know. What do you guys? What would be a high level description of what a shell is?
A shell is just an interpreter. It's the layer that allows you to talk to the computer, basically. It's the translator. So you type stuff in English or some type of way. And
okay. It takes that information and talks to the hardware. Gotcha.
Yeah. So I'm pretty sure it's not the first shell vulnerability. Probably won't be the last.
Right.
Unlike Windows, because Windows owns 80-90% of the market share, when a vulnerability like this is exposed, it becomes a huge thing because it's going to be on every tech site and every this and that, and it's going to be pushed forward like the Heartbleed virus or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
I mean that type of stuff gets pushed in the forefront because consumers understand Windows and that's what they use, and so that's relevant. But
right.
For us, we'll just tell it to update and we'll forget about it tomorrow.
All right. So the last part of the show, we want to we talked about this last week that the Atomic Ass was going to play a particular game in Linux and kind of just give us a report because he actually has a whole series on his YouTube channel called Does It Play, or wait, what is it again, Atomic?
Does it run on Linux?
Does it run on Linux? Sorry, okay, yes. And so he's going to take a game and just tell us a little bit of pluses and negatives about that game as a segment in the show. So that's what we'll do right now.
And just as a note, if you want to look up my YouTube videos, you can click the link in the description of this video, or you can look for the hashtag on Twitter, DIROL. But yeah.
Why did I have to think about that?
On Linux?
Yeah, I know. Why did I have to do? Must be late.
It is late. But this week I played around with Mountain. And this is a very simple game, and it's also, I think it's the only game I've ever paid full price for. Because it's 99 cents. And there are no controls.
How do you play a game?
Okay,
with no
so
controls?
tell us the basis of the game.
You are a mountain.
Are you serious? I'm actually looking at it now through Steam. I'm looking at it through Steam. It's under RPG games.
Well, you're role-playing a mountain.
You're actually role-playing a mountain.
Yeah.
Okay. And what is the objective, Atomic? What can you tell us fulfill your dreams of being a mountain.
Ever since I was a wee little lad, I always dreamed to be a mountain.
Right? All right. Well, give us the pluses and negatives, Atomic. Tell us, what type of hardware did you run it on? Does it run in Linux? Share the information with us, Atomic.
It runs on everything. I even tried it on my EEE PC, which is from 2008, and it was underpowered then, and it runs on that.
Wow.
And, yeah, it will run on anything you put it on. As far as gameplay, almost. I think you need a slightly better graphics card for that.
Oh, okay.
As far as gameplay goes, well, how much is there to being a mountain?
Wow. I'm reading some of the reviews, and I don't know if these are joke reviews or what. It says, Mountain breaks the mold of video games. Nothing you do matters in this game, but you'll still obsess over it. That's what Wired put. LA Times put, at the beginning of the game, I find the idea cute. By the end, I am hypnotized.
This is the next Flappy Bird. Whoever made this is going to be rich.
Yeah, right?
It has Steam VR support.
I don't even know what to think about this. Is this for real?
Yes, this is for real.
Someone put, this is my first time buying a screensaver. They put it in the comments. Another person put, they gave it a thumbs down and said, this isn't a game, it's a screensaver.
Wow.
Atomic, I can't believe you picked this as your first game. Mountain.
I mean, it is 99 cents, I guess.
Wow.
What?
Well, I think you'll just have to go and look up the guides about how to be a better mountain. Oh, and a scythe just impacted my mountain.
Oh my gosh. So apparently the minimum requirements for Linux is a 1.7 plus gigahertz or better CPU, a Radeon HD 5450 or better with 256 megabytes or higher of memory, and the hard drive you need is 200 megabits of available space.
All of which is a great overestimation. It takes, well, maybe not the space. It takes 228 megabytes of space. But it runs on a 900 megahertz Celeron.
I am willing to bet this runs perfectly fine on Android.
It probably runs on a what's it called chip, Atom chip, or a non x86 type chip. What am I trying to think of? ARM. Thank you. Yes, ARM.
Yeah, probably. I mean, we got like quad core beast
right? Yeah.
phones out there that are probably better than some people's PCs.
Well, to introduce this segment to the show, Atomic reviewed the game Mountain. And so what are your takeaways from this game, Atomic? Are there anything you want to share with our viewers?
You have to understand what is expected of you to play this game. It is an experience. You experience it.
Okay.
An experience, like the Fly, or whatever that thing was.
Yeah, what was that game?
Like that, but
less adventurous.
Yes.
I have to admit that I was thoroughly entertained by that game, The Fly, or whatever it was.
Fewer light bulbs.
Okay. Fewer light bulbs.
But more light sources.
Jeez.
Righteous.
All right. Well, that pretty much, I think that covers it for episode 6 of the Linux Tech and Gaming Podcast. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the show and watching our live stream. Just remember, this is a learning experience for all of us. We're trying to get this podcasting thing, nailed down. And hopefully you enjoyed our content. And I look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday at 7 p.m. for episode 7. As usual, you can check out my other videos that I have on my YouTube channel that you're watching right now. Subscribing would be awesome. I'm going to try to get back to uploading more regularly. I haven't been uploading to YouTube lately. I've been doing a lot of live streaming, either on Twitch or on Hitbox. I've been playing a lot of Rust lately, and that has really been, a really kind of enjoyable but frustrating experience. Getting killed by hackers and getting killed by people who raid you, and so that part's not fun. But so I look forward to seeing you guys next Wednesday at 7 p.m. And I might even be live streaming some Rust after we close the podcast down today. I'm not sure yet. I haven't decided. So Atomic, go ahead with your outro.
I don't really have an outro.
Okay, well. All right, I guess I'll do it for you. Atomic, check out Atomic's YouTube channel, guys. He's got an awesome series called Does It Run on Linux? He's also got a bunch of other videos on his YouTube channel. He really enjoys Minecraft. I think he's got some Minecraft videos if you're into Minecraft. So make sure you follow him on Twitter to stay up to date with what he's doing, and subscribe to him on YouTube. He's got some great videos.
Correction.
Osiris? Oh, okay.
I am addicted to Minecraft. I don't necessarily enjoy it.
Sounds
all right.
like a problem.
Okay. Osiris?
All right. Before we get out of here, I want to remind everybody that we once again have a Steam group. If you want to catch up with any of us or at the same time, see announcements, see what we're doing, what games we're playing, what games that we recommend, join our group, Linux Tech and Gaming, on the Steam. It's steamcommunity.com/groups/Linux Tech and Gaming. Hopefully you can append that URL somewhere after the show. But
I'll put it actually down in the description. Yeah, I'll add it to the description down below to our Steam group. Yep.
Yeah, because apparently you can't post links in the chat.
Yeah, I tried that. Failed miserably. But yeah, once again, on Twitter, @Osiris. And on YouTube, just search for Osiris Tech, OSIREZ Space Tech. And nobody does Facebook.
Yeah, fuck Facebook.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up episode 6 of the Linux Tech and Gaming Podcast. Thanks again, everybody, for coming, and we'll see you next week, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesday. Later.